Good morning. I'm Misha, and I'll be talking about a handheld spectrometer that analyzes food. This is based on the article in IEEE Spectrum, Handheld Spectroscopy Tool to examine molecular composition of food. And it's basically a cheaper, smaller version of the IR lab equipment we're familiar with. When light with a range of near IR or NIR wavelengths is shined on a sample, the molecules absorb some wavelengths with frequencies matching their vibration levels. The light reflected back to the spectrometer consists only of the wavelengths that were not absorbed, generating a spectrum such as this reflectance spectrum of a tomato. Unlike in mid-IR, where bands are specific to functional groups, the complex bands on the NIR spectrum result from the combined vibrations of the different molecules in the sample. Thus, the spectrum is an optical signature unique to the sample, a fingerprint, which can be used as an identifier. What's more interesting is how recent developers are pairing this tool up with an online computer network, a cloud, accessible through smartphones. After a point-and-shoot scan of a sample, the information is analyzed with processors based on an existing updatable database in the cloud, and results are sent to a smartphone app. This makes spectroscopy accessible to customers beyond the field of scientific research and to the bigger field of everyday consumers. Everyone will be using it to figure out and share what's in their food, medication, and even plant health. With every scan, the spectrum is uploaded to the database, teaching the device more about our physical world. A specific product of this is Skio by Consumer Physics. The device was patented, and the company successfully crowdfunded in June through Kickstarter. That is, thousands of people loosely invested money for as low as $1 in exchange for deals or pledges. For $199 or higher, pledgers would receive a device as soon as possible and have access to any smartphone apps made in the next 2 years. For $399 or higher, pledgers would receive the same plus a developer's kit, which would allow them to make their own smartphone app for the device using the existing database and interface, or by creating a specialized system specific to the application. These pledges don't only give the company funding, but also provides a large workforce of people to scan and continuously update the database and even make new applications that uses the device. By the time the device officially hits the market, the database would have sufficient information on the most common things people would scan, and several smartphone apps will be available with different specific functions. Further developing the device and perhaps integrating it directly to smartphones could make it a handy tool for quick, non-invasive medical diagnosis. This is possible by analyzing skin tissue. Several skin diseases are actually manifestations of internal diseases and thus can be used as indicators. For example, diabetes causes wrinkled skin due to cross-linked glycosylated collagen fibers in the tissue. Analyzing the glycosylated collagen levels in the skin could partly reflect levels of blood glucose and predict the disease. Other diseases may be detected in the same manner. So say you have a weird little itch on your hand. After scanning the itch, your smartphone might ask you some follow-up questions like a real doctor would. Then it searches for spectra of similar symptoms in a specialized database and finally sends the diagnosis to your smartphone. For simple itches, it may not be much, but for people with illnesses like diabetes which they need to monitor more frequently, it may be a lifesaver. There exists previously patented designs for handheld spectrometers to detect diabetes, such as this one entitled Spectroscopic Analysis of Tissue to Detect Diabetes. In their design, the processing system and digital readout is actually integrated in their device, making it more expensive and an extra gadget to carry around. Also, the device is limited to detecting diabetes only. Just to point out, it took the inventors 9 years before the patent was finally granted in 2012. This shows that the idea was actually around for quite some time. So that ends my presentation. Thank you for listening. Here are my references and my image sources.